There's no denying it now. This is what I am. Roomie, you knew I was a mistake from the very start.
Finally, I'm reviewing and analyzing a movie that isn't South Park based or Elf on the Shelf, kind of. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk and I'm here to talk to you about K-pop Demon Hunters, or more specifically, Celine. But first, I should probably give my thoughts on K-pop Demon Hunters, a movie you guys have been requesting me to review since its premiere. K-pop Demon Hunters is a movie that's basically a combo of Winx Club, Totally Spies, and Frozen, with a bunch of K-pop attached to it, hence the name. And it kind of blew up over the summer, and unlike most of the stuff I review, not just cosplayers have seen it, but normies too. Ugh, normies, get out of my face. The movie focuses on Roomie, Mira, and Zoe, aka Huntrix, a K-pop band that moonlights as demon hunters on the side. Once a generation, a group of demon hunters, which is usually the Huntrix group, unite to steal the Hun Moon, which keeps demons from entering our world and devouring people's souls and causing chaos, with the fans acting as the support for the barrier, basically. Think about it like Bullivix from Winx Club, where the more people listen and like Huntrix, the more the Hun Moon is strengthened. Huntrix, as the first of the hunters to be a global act, is closest to getting a golden Hun Moon, which will apparently be permanent. Yay, right? Well, Roomie is hiding something. She's half demon. What a twist. And yes, we will discuss what the golden Hun Moon is and if it were even possible. And yes, what would have been the effects, or what I think would have been the effects. So, what do I think about the movie? I think it's pretty good, and I see how it got popular. Albeit, you might hate me for this, I do think it's a tad overhyped. Even if, admittedly, I think it's a good movie, and again, I love the songs, but I do get the Wanna vibes when I watch it, where the music is very good, but the plot line and the characterization itself is pretty cliche and color by numbers. And things were honestly pretty predictable. Again, it doesn't mean I hate the movie, it's just like something I noticed. Like, I think that's why Moana got popular. And honestly, it kind of reminds me of Winx Club or even Monster High, where despite the title, it's mostly focused on Roomie, or just one person. Since admittedly, Roomie is the most interesting character in the whole movie, so obviously she's gonna get more focus. While Mira and Zoe oftentimes get shifted to the sidelines. Like, when I first watched the movie, I'm like, do we even need these two? Which sucks, because I love these two! Like, they just don't feel as necessary at times. But K-pop Demon Hunters has become so popular, they're apparently getting a sequel, so maybe the next one will focus on Mira and or Zoe, and a third focuses on the other girls, so. I think my main complaint, which everybody echoes, is that the movie is too short. It should have been a mini-series, kind of like Arcane was, because then everybody would get equal focus and you could expand on more stuff. Like, I'll be honest, when I first watched the movie, maybe I wasn't paying all that much attention to it, but outside of Jinu, I did not know the names of any of the Saja boys. Like, I thought at times it should have just been Jinu and maybe Abby and Baby to kind of make them more obvious foils to Huntrix, but now the group honestly is my favorite, and I do want to cosplay at least Baby or do one of the Grim Reaper Sajas from Act 3. Like, it's criminal that Jinu's Lamed isn't on the main album, because it's like the best song ever. Since this is a video about Celine, I think she's a victim of this compressed pacing too, which we'll get to when we get to. Now, I think one reason the movie got popular, besides the songs, was because of Roomie. Like, despite my criticisms, I really do think Roomie was the main reason. Since the story of being forced to hide parts of yourself is all too common and relatable for most people.
Why couldn't you love me? I do! All of me!
And since there's never like a clear-cut metaphor about what Roomie's supposed to be, you can pretty much imprint any experience you want on her, and your interpretation will be just as valid as anybody else's. I mean, besides having to hide the idea of being queer, I've seen physical disabilities, being biracial, neurodivergence, even self-harm to some degree, because Roomie has markings she's forced to hide and feel ashamed of.
I say no, Roomie.
You're so modest, it's just the bathhouse.
Maybe some other time. You guys go ahead.
And all of this can be traced back to Celine. Many fans hate Celine for making Roomie have this massive amount of self-loathing and self-hatred. Heck, when I first watched the movie, I hated Celine. I remember watching it on Netflix on my TV and audibly saying, because I do talk to the TV, like, wow, Celine's kind of a But rewatching and re-examining the movie, while I still don't like her and I do hope the sequel gives her a redemption arc, I am a bit more sympathetic to her the same way I am with Jax or Stella, where where I obviously don't approve of her actions, but from her perspective, when you really get down to it, I get why she did them. She kind of reminds me of Beatrice from BoJack, where when you truly examine her, you kind of get why she did it and you feel more sympathy for her. But it still doesn't excuse or justify her actions, it just explains them. And I think Celine could have been like Jax or Beatrice or Pink Diamond or even Abuela from Encanto, but I hate to say it, she was let down by, and I don't mean this in a big way, poor writing. Like, they just focused on the wrong thing. So why did Celine do what she did to the point where I'm willing to make a whole video defending her? Well, let's discuss. Celine is Roomie's adoptive mother, who raised her after the death of the latter's own mother, who I might be butchering, I am so sorry, Ryu Mi-young, who had Roomie with a demon but died when Roomie was a baby, or in childbirth, they don't really make it clear. I assume maybe when Roomie was first born? Like a Promise Me Ned situation? Celine and Ryu were part of the Sunshine Sisters, the previous incarnation of demon hunters, along with a third person the movie doesn't really focus or name, but I feel the sequels will probably build on. Growing up, Celine always taught Roomie to hide her patterns and her markings, and her demon heritage, telling her nobody would accept her for them, and that included Zoe and Roomie. But she told Roomie once the golden honeymoon happened and the demons were permanently sealed away, that her markings would disappear and she could finally live a normal life.
When the honeymoon is sealed, all the demons will be gone from this world, and so will your patterns.
So these will be gone?
Yes, those will be gone.
Even if I agree with everybody else, Celine really had no way of knowing this. Like, nobody did. Even when Roomie's like, oh yeah, Gino, when the golden honeymoon happens, you could say what it's like. Nobody knows if that's true or not. Like, it doesn't help that since the film makes the point Roomie's demon heritage is a part of herself, and not just like a strange quote-unquote quirk like Elsa or Elphaba, there's a very big chance that the golden honeymoon getting sealed, if that ever was like actually able to happen, might mean Roomie's death when you really start to think about it. Like, that's just my idea. Like, if they actually did that, Roomie would die or be in great, indescribable pain. Since it'd be like getting rid of Steven's gem. She might look human, but she can't survive without the other half. So I could see that happening, and I'm honestly surprised they never went with that. The only counterpoint to this that I can name is how Guima makes the point that he can't control Roomie the same way he can with other demons, or like Ginu, but that could just be chalked up to the honeymoon or her human heritage and nothing else, because Ginu basically sold his soul to Guima. I do think such a thing like the golden honeymoon is possible, but at the same time, I also view it like perfection. An impossibly high standard they could probably never reach, or that there's better ways of going about it. Not helping is how Celine taught this not just to Roomie, but to Zoe and Mira when they eventually became her students. That as hunters, their faults and fears must never be seen because they have to be an inspiration to everyone. And if you have any kind of insecurity, fear, or doubt, you might as well bottle that up and store it in the wine cellar. So for Roomie, sealing the golden honeymoon becomes her life's goal, thinking that she'll finally be able to be like everyone else, and she becomes a major workaholic to make it happen. Rather than take a 2-week break before the Idol Awards like she's advised to, she tries to force the release of the song Golden, thinking it'll help speed things up, even if all it does is ruin her voice, and even if it makes her vulnerable to Ginu, who uses Roomie's shame as a tool against her the same way Guima is using with him.
How could you do this?
It was all a lie.
It was real. What we had was real. I know it was.
The things I said, I just needed you to trust me.
And because of what Celine said, Roomie doesn't tell why to Zoe and Mira, which further isolates both her and Huntrix as a whole. Not only can they not really do anything fun together, like go to bathhouses or even have the same dressing room, like imagine how separated she is from the two of them, but when the truth comes out, Zoe and Mira are obviously going to feel betrayed that the two people they trusted more than anyone lied to them. Like, think about it, Mira wanted a family, and her family was just like the last one. Zoe wanted a place to belong, and you can't really belong if you're keeping secrets.
You have patterns. These are supposed to be gone. You were never supposed to see.
You were hiding this from us this whole time?
No, I have a plan to erase them.
On top of that, it weakens the honeymoon, aka the barrier that is supposed to keep the demons out. However, because I feel like I'll get comments for this, because I did get it with Jax and Stella, while I don't like Celine, and I think she has major stuff to work on, both as a person and as a mother figure, I do want you guys to keep something in mind. A little word called perspective. perspective, aka seeing things from another person's point of view, their way of thinking, and why they might think this way, and how it influenced the decisions that they made. Because it'll be important for both context and for why people make mistakes without realizing they are. Because to me, no mistake is ever really intended to be a mistake. We just don't realize it in the moment. Celine thought she was doing the best she could, and even that wasn't her best. At the Idol Awards, Jinu has demons take the forms of Mira and Zoe, surprise not just the Saja boys, and rip off Roomie's jacket, finally exposing her patterns.
No, don't leave. Don't leave. I can still fix it!
And the real Mira and Zoe, not knowing how to react to the lies, point their weapons at Roomie.
Zoe, please.
And I know some people are pissed at them for doing this, but look at it from their perspective. Roomie was their fearless leader, the glue holding the two together, and she just revealed to the world she was collaborating with their enemy, since as far as they knew, Jinu is still working for Guima, and he still does until the climax. And BTW, I feel like Jinu gets off a bit too easy by the fandom because he gets redeemed at the end, but that's just me. Like, think of all the crap he put this girl through. If anything, he's Celine written right.
It's not all you are. This is just your demon talking. You have to fight it.
That's not how it works!
Yes,
Listen to yourself.
Regardless, I think Zoe and Mira were just in shock of the situation and didn't really know how to react, because if they really were going to kill Roomie because of it, like, they would have, like, charged at her or something, but they just weakly put up their hands like, please stop. And they don't really know what's going on. Like, do they know that's really Roomie? Did she make a deal with Guima? Did she halve her lifespan in exchange for Shinigami eyes? Which I know Celine thinks because she's a hunter she can't explain it, but really, the irony is she could have just told them, like, look, Roomie is a half demon, but we're working to fix it and we need your help. Because I hate to say it, they'd probably be totally understanding about Roomie's half demon side, because it would mean helping their friend going through something tough. Even if it means the movie could probably make a commentary on one of the good ones.
they'll understand.
No, Roomie. Nothing can change until your patterns are gone.
In any case, I think them aiming their weapons was more of a, okay, stay back, you have a lot of explaining to do, or just like a rash type of thing rather than a, you're a dirty demon and we're gonna kill you for something you have no control over. Left with no choice, Roomie, still in shock, runs away to go see Celine, in one of the most poignant scenes in the movie and the one that gets discussed the most by fans, which I will analyze line by line. Celine is out one night when she notices Roomie and she notices the Hun moon is starting to weaken and points her weapon at her.
Roomie?
Oh no, how terrible, right? Well, she didn't know it was Roomie, and she was outside in the dark, realizing the Hun moon was breaking down, aka her life's work and the work of centuries worth of demon hunters. Plus, she was by herself, admittedly in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Guima sends demons regularly after the hunters. Who's to say this isn't the first time he tried to send them after her, near her place of retirement? Or like, oh no, he finally figured out where I am. Plus, she's also a hunter, and I hate to put it this way, I feel like there's a little bit of post-traumatic stress involved. Kind of like a soldier with war. Like, if you hear a loud noise, like, no, it's the bombs or something. But like, come on, Guima's demons knew where Huntrix was going to be well enough that they were able to disguise themselves as their flight attendants. And the only reason Huntrix caught on was because they didn't know how to act human. So yes.
You're a demon, right?
What do you mean?
You're smiling all weird, watering plants with coffee, and those guys? Come on.
Plus, speaking as a woman myself, dude, I get scared if I hear a twig snap when I'm taking out the trash at night. And I don't have creepy demons following me around trying to eat my soul, I don't think. Roomie appears to her, dressed like that, and says that she couldn't fix herself.
I thought I could fix it all. Fix me. But I ran out of time.
That she let Celine down. And BTW, she has her demon voice, her demon patterns, her hair and her clothes are a mess, she's disheveled, her demon powers are happening. What is Celine supposed to think beyond Roomie failed in the purpose she was raised all her life to complete? That Celine was probably raised to complete. That her own mother died trying to accomplish this. Roomie tells Celine they saw and they know what she is, which shocks Celine.
They saw. They know.
But notice how Roomie never tells her just who they are or how they found out. I mean, I'm sure Celine probably realized it was Zoe and Mira, but you know what I mean. She could have meant the whole world caught on, which they're not supposed to tell people about demons. Not knowing what to do, Roomie drops to her knees and lifts her sword, telling Celine to do what needs to be done, which is horrific. Think about it. You're out one night and then your kid just appears like crying, like, please kill me because I'm a mistake.
Do what you should have done a long time ago. Before I destroy what I swore to protect. Please.
Like, her own child is begging to be killed because she couldn't be everything Celine wanted her to be. When no, disappointing your parent doesn't mean it's the end of the world, usually. But your child, like, is literally begging to die. How is she supposed to react? Beyond the only way she knows how, I guess you can say. Embracing her or trying as much as she can in the moment. Because she realizes Roomie is obviously in shock. Because notice that Celine did touch Roomie, at least on her shoulders, and gave her her coat. Even though, yeah, it is covering up her patterns a little bit. Although it is probably cold out, so I think Celine's probably like, it's okay, like, I know you're in shock, I'll help you. And she tries to reassure her that she's okay.
Everything I was taught told me you were wrong. But I made a promise.
So keep this in mind, because I think this quote is very important and people forget this. My big point about Celine is that Celine was taught and probably brought up the same way Roomie was to think this way, because we don't know when she was recruited to join the Sunlight Sisters. For all we know, she could have been raised for this purpose. For all we know, she could have been abducted when she was 18. We don't know her backstory. We just know she was in a band and she used to hunt demons with Roomie's mother. However, what we do know is she was taught that she had to hide all of her flaws, be they physical, emotional, whatever.
Faults and fears must never be seen. It's the only way to protect the Hunmun.
In that if she didn't do this, as much as it hurt, the world would end and everybody she knew would be killed and sacrificed to Guima. Doesn't mean she isn't in the wrong for how she's acting, but unfortunately, speaking from experience, deconstructing is a very, very, very slow process. And Roomie just started. Like, I do think if you deconstruct even a little, that's pretty good, but it takes leaps and bounds and sometimes even years for this to happen. At least in Roomie's case, she's still young, so she has time, and that's probably why these lessons are catching on quicker. But Celine is older, so she's more set in her ways.
When we lost your mother, I swore to protect all that was left of her. But I never thought that would be a child like you.
Okay, this I want to examine. Normally in shows, they'll make the point that the characters or the species who are considered the evil ones or the bad ones are really framed. Or most of them are good people and just being led by a few bad apples. Like the monsters in Star Vs. or the demons in Devil May Cry. But I don't think that's totally true with this movie, for the most part. We see with very few exceptions, maybe because they don't have time, maybe because this is true, that the demons actually enjoy getting to, like, eat humans and everything.
Your fans! We're gonna eat your fans!
No, thank you.
No.
Not our fans.
And it's not like once they eat you, you turn into a demon. No, once they eat you, that's it, you're done. Even if they do serve Guima mostly out of fear rather than true loyalty, the demons, they weren't lying. Humans are like soda pops. Remember, they ate a whole train full of people, and Roomie, grappling with herself, distracted Huntrix long enough to make that happen. And again, this doesn't get fixed at the end of the movie. Like, those people are dead. Like, the movie kind of glosses over that. Like, they kind of let, like, hundreds, if not thousands of people die. I hate to say it, but unless the hunters can find another way to stop them or give them another food source, or maybe make the point that there are more demons like Chinu who were humans, there really is no other way for mankind to be safe beyond both sides being divided. Like, this is how it unfortunately has to be. And BTW, I know nothing about Korean demons or any of that stuff, so please correct me if such a thing is possible or if they made most of this up for the movie. Roomie, I hate to say it, is the only true exception, with the possible exception of Chinu, just because Roomie is part human. And even then, we don't know the circumstances that even led to her birth, or like how her parents met or anything, or even what led to her mother dying. For all Celine knows, Roomie's mother was taken advantage of, and Roomie is a product of that. Or maybe because Celine thinks all demons are just evil, maybe that's what she thinks happens. Because, again, we don't know Roomie's mother's backstory. Maybe she died in childbirth. Maybe it was an accident afterwards. Maybe Celine caused her death and that's why she's so serious about raising her. We don't know. And ultimately, I think that's one big problem which I hope the sequels, like, address. Because Celine is so prejudiced, she likely thinks the fact fact she let Roomie live, like, at all to be a big deal. And to some degree, I do think yes. But as Dead End Paranormal Park will tell you, as a parent, there's a big difference between doing the bare minimum to accept your child and truly accepting your child for who they are. Like, it's enough to say, I accept you, but actions speak louder than words.
I don't get it. We accepted you.
That is what parents are supposed to do. That's the bare minimum. What about that dinner?
And even Roomie points this out. Yes, Celine loves her, and Celine loved her enough to raise her like a daughter, but Celine is ultimately the reason she has this complex that made life challenging for her as an adult.
Accept me? You told me to cover up, to hide.
Yes, until we can fix everything.
See? What did I just say? What did I just say? But Celine doesn't know what else to do beyond fall back on her programming, for lack of a better word, because she knows no better. This has never happened before. And to be fair, she doesn't know the full situation because she doesn't give Roomie a chance to explain. But Roomie is still in shock, so hey, maybe not the best time to be like, sweetie, what happened? Why did you date a boy who's actually a demon? What did I tell you? She's just going off of what she knows and basically trying her hardest to calm Roomie down and fix this big mess. Like usual, she just wants to fix it, but instead of fixing it, she also wants to cover it up and be done with it, aka more denial.
And cover those up and put everything right again. I'll tell Mira and Zoe that it was all a lie, an illusion by Kima to break us apart.
No.
And of course, Roomie, who has spent the whole movie realizing that as much as it sucks, her demon heritage is a part of her and she needs to accept it, finally tells Celine to stick it where the sun don't shine and stop what she's doing. Because Celine's behavior is not helping and it never did. I mean, she can't even look at Roomie for as much as she claims to love her. And what did I say about acceptance?
Look at me. Why can't you look at me? Why couldn't you love me?
I do!
All of me!
And all of this is confirming to Roomie, who is in the middle of a major existential crisis and a major crash out, that even the one person who thought she could rely on isn't somebody worth relying on. She's not helping. So why does Celine not look at Roomie? Okay, I do think it's partially prejudice, but I also partially think it's not. I think it's likely because this is the first time Roomie has truly stood up to her and Celine just doesn't know what to do, which for somebody like her is insane. As we saw in flashbacks, all of which portrayed Celine in a bad fashion, Roomie was a quiet, obedient child who did as she was told, with little protest. The fact that Roomie is standing up for herself is major character development, but to Celine, it's dangerous. See what Roomie is doing when she screams? When she lets her emotions out, she becomes a demon. She makes little cracks in the honeymoon, as far as Celine knows. Which I think is more so just Roomie being emotional, and rightfully so, and not knowing how to control her powers, but maybe she could have if Celine taught her how to accept them. And Celine, as we know, isn't an emotional person. No hunter is meant to be. So she likely doesn't know how to react beyond just denying what's happening in front of her. Like, if I can't see it, it's not there. But again, to Roomie, the way Celine is acting is just confirming her fears. She didn't raise her to love her, she raised her as a responsibility to be another hunter, and just gave her a bunch of baggage.
Our faults and fears must never be seen.
If this is the honeymoon I'm supposed to protect, I'm glad to see it destroyed.
And then Roomie disappears, and as far as Celine knows, all hope is lost. Her daughter and her students are scattered, Guima is loose, and the demons are coming for them all. See what I mean? Celine is wrong for thinking the way she did, but it makes sense why she is. But why am I willing to support Celine to the degree that I am, while still vilifying a bunch of other parents in animation? Is it because I have mommy issues? Probably, but that's a story for another day. To me, Celine is one of the biggest victims of the movie being a movie and not a miniseries, or at least maybe 10 minutes longer. Since I think if they at least had one flashback of Celine being told to raise Roomie by Ryu Myung, or maybe like a scene of her being chosen as a hunter and told to hide all of her true feelings if it meant stealing the honeymoon, or heck, even one of Roomie's parents and Celine's reaction to that, I think more fans would sympathize with her. Like imagine a scene of, say, Celine who just got through a really hard concert, like her throat hurts, it's taxing, she just wants to go to bed, she wants to rest on the couch, and then a group of demons show up so she's like, ugh, I can't take a break. Because while Roomie, Mira, and Zoe make the music career look glamorous because they do have Bobby, it's pretty tough to be a musician. It's physically taxing, it's like being an athlete. I mean, if you couldn't guess by my mini hiatus, do you even think this is easy? And I'm not even that famous. I've even seen a few people compare Celine to Pearl from Steven Universe, where she means well and you can tell she loves her surrogate child, but because she really doesn't know what she's doing, she's actually kind of a bad parent when you get down to it. To the point where the Crystal Gems honestly deserve their own video on how they failed as mothers, or at least Garnet and Pearl. I mean, Amethyst does too, but I'm getting off track.
And isn't it so great how it comes so naturally to humans? Well, it's not natural for us. It's not natural for me.
And I agree 100%, especially Pearl's quote of how hard raising Steven was when he was a baby. Where yes, love is the single most important thing a parent needs, but you can still try your best, and your best might not be the best. A theme in many movies nowadays, especially family movies and kid movies, which even K-pop Demon Hunters is getting in on, is intergenerational trauma, aka abuse or toxicity is a sickness that likely just didn't start with your parents deciding one day to be abusers, or even your grandparents for all you know. It's usually a gradual process, and unfortunately, because nobody knows what to do, abuse just breeds more abuse as they know no other way. Kind of like the point I made with Stella and Beatrice, two things can be true. You can be both a victim of abuse and continue the cycle as an abuser. And one way they do this is by giving us these little glimmers of sympathy, usually for the form of a flashback, to show how the parent became an abuser, or at least their start of darkness.
You think you want this, but you don't. Not like this.
Mrs. Horse,
Don't throw away your dreams for this child. Don't let that man poison your life the way he did mine.
Like, Beatrice got 2 full episodes, which I've talked about enough to death already, so let's talk about the other 2 movies, both of which are Disney movies, and I guess they kind of popularized this. With Encanto, one of the major themes is Mirabel uncovering 2 generations worth of trauma for her family, and how it all can be traced back to her abuela, Alma, to the point where Alma is never called by her real name in the movie, only her title, kind of like calling her the boss. And much like Roomie, Mirabel realizes that Alma demands perfection to keep their miracle going, no matter how much it hurts the family, the people around them, and even the miracle itself, and how it alienates people like Bruno, who actually do care a whole darn lot.
Bruno left our family because you only saw the worst in him.
Bruno didn't care about this family.
He loves this family. You're the one that doesn't care.
In the end, Mirabel realizes that Alma is somebody who experienced a great tragedy, and she became a perfectionist and unintentionally passed that sickness onto her children and her grandchildren to avoid that ever happening again. So what if they're suffering? The village isn't. She even uses the words of, "I was given a miracle, a second chance, and I was so afraid to lose it that I lost sight of who our miracle was for." Kind of like how they imply the honeymoon is based on friendship, and at the end they are able to make a new one based on their bond as sisters, whereas the other honeymoon was breaking because they were so perfectionist. And compared to Celine, what makes Alma a better written character is that we get that perspective near the end and near the beginning, since the film opens up with Alma telling Mirabel the story of how the family received their miracle, which, because she's telling it to a 5-year-old, is portrayed like a fairy tale, like a mother overcoming so much to have a new beginning. And then once Mirabel finally gets the proper context as a young adult, she finally sees the flashback for what it is. Not a story of hope, but a traumatized young woman seeing the love of her life be killed right in front of her in a highly violent, probably gruesome manner, and then being forced to raise their infant children alone and lead a whole community in the process. Or if we want to use another story of an Asian girl realizing the cultural values her family upholds kind of hurt the family, since many people take K-pop Demon Hunters as a commentary on the unfair standards placed on actual K-pop idols, let's look at Turning Red. Yes, people dislike Turning Red. I mean, how dare a kids movie that takes place a year after 9/11 and in a completely different country not talk about such a significant cultural event? I mean, how dare they? Even if my only true complaint is that I don't mind the fact the movie takes place in the past, but it doesn't feel like 2002. Like, plays it like 2007, 2009, just because the references in those cases make more sense, but I'm stalling. The movie makes the point that May does love her parents, she does well in school, and they love her, but she does dislike the unfair expectations her mother set for her, especially after she transforms into the red panda, which is their metaphor for puberty. Even if she doesn't realize she is allowed to dislike them. Up until that point, she just views her mom as a bit suffocating, not realizing, yeah, most parents don't go to the school and be like, "Hey honey, you forgot your pads." It's through her friends that she realizes the panda isn't something she needs to fix or hide, since their love can help her control it. She doesn't understand why her mom hates it, at least until she sees a version of her mother at her own age, probably, and realizes why she's so serious about fixing the panda, because she didn't want to repeat that mistake. When Ming, or May's mother, was a child, her own mother, Wu, forced her to be perfect, until Ming took her aggression out on her and lashed out.
I'm just so sick of being perfect. I'm never gonna be good enough for her. Or anyone.
Like, even using K-pop Demon Hunters as a comparison, a character who is pretty bad but gets a pass from fans regularly, come on, is Jinu. Like, to the point where I'll go to a convention nowadays and there'll be like little tiny shrines to Jinu. But I think a reason for that is because, unlike Celine, we got Jinu's backstory, where he did sell out his family for a chance to work at the palace, but unlike Celine, he made up for it in the end by sacrificing himself against Guima. Whereas Celine, the only flashbacks we got were her being pretty negative and being a bad mom. And after Roomie leaves her, instead of going to the Sacha Boy concert, like following her and being like, Roomie, I was so wrong, I'll accept you and fight alongside you, and make a new honeymoon in the process, Celine just disappears into the ether. We don't even hear about her after the final battle, like if Roomie just cut her off and she's never talking to her until we need her for another sequel, or if her voice actress wants to come back, or if they somehow made up off screen, like nothing, like we don't know what happened, and that's a crying shame. But I get it, they ran out of time, they could only do so much, and I guess I've run out of time, so anyhow, bye!